You know, I quite like Sinead O'Connor's music. Not all of it, but Sinead O'Connor's fine. Des O'Connor, I loved him. Of course, Tom O'Connor, the forgotten host of various daytime game shows, a nice fellow as well, but none of them can shine a light towards Van Connor. Mr. Movies each and every Friday with his Freeview film recommendations. Van, when it comes to the movies, nothing compares to you. How's your week been, matey?
Not bad, my good sir. I love you. Those are the cons you compare me to. Those are the ones you pulled out of the... Those are my Connors, really? I'm disappointed.
Next we're going to come up with a whole other bunch for you. So, where would you like to start? You're taking us on a trip to Fantasy Island, I believe.
I do, and I know, of course, you of all people remember the Ricardo Montalban, the 1970s original, now revised in 2020. This was a COVID movie made by Blumhouse, like on the cheap for Universal, and the basic premise is, what if we do Fantasy Island, but the general twist is it's all a horror movie. And that's what you get here with the likes of Michael Pena, with an all-star cast of like CW-type actors. And they all go into their various fantasies, but there's something not quite right with them. I've got a clip for you. This is on Channel 4 tonight at midnight, which I think is the perfect time for it. It's a Blumhouse movie, so it's a tight and tidy 100-minute movie, be over by 1 with adverts kind of thing, but a perfect got home from the pub, gotcha kind of run. I've got a clip for you of when they meet Mr. Rourke, explain the rules of Fantasy Island.
It's midnight, it's tonight, it's Fantasy Island.
Good evening. I am Mr. Rourke, the ambassador to your deepest desires. Let me officially welcome you to Fantasy Island.
We were all just discussing how this works exactly.
You will know soon enough, and I promise you will not be disappointed. The island has 2 rules. There is only 1 fantasy per guest, and 2, you must see your fantasy through to its natural conclusion, no matter what.
Well, why wouldn't we?
Because fantasies rarely play out as you or I might expect, but they always play out exactly as they should.
Not even you know how they're gonna go?
Only the island knows. I am but its humble steward.
That sounds pretty darn good. This one completely passed me by because of what it's released, but I'm liking the sound of that one. And as you say, they don't hang around their films, do they? So that should be a goodie one. Now, I've gone for an absolute classic from the 80s. 80s cinema, I think, had one of its finest offerings early in the 80s. In 1982, we had Nick Nolte, gruff-voiced, and we had an incredibly young but incredibly charismatic and confident Eddie Murphy playing a con man and a criminal called Reggie, and he's the only person they believe who can track down a hideous criminal on the run called Gans. He's worked with him. So Nick Nolte gets him out of prison, but only for 48 hours. Now, Eddie Murphy's got his own agenda, which is to try and find what happened to the money that he managed to rob that led him to go into prison, and also he wants to, shall we say, having been in prison for a number of years, wants to, should we say, take the weight off. He wants to reduce anxiety. He wants to get close to some younger women because he wants to remind himself what female form is like. So, all Nick Nolte wants to do is keep beating him up and find the bad guys. Some fantastic scenes in this. I mean, this was, for me, what a calling card for the cinema. I think Eddie Murphy's first 4 films were 48 Hours. We had Beverly Hills Cop, a film called Best Defence, which isn't bad, but isn't Dudley Moore's in it. And then, of course, I think it was Trading Places, wasn't it, as well, from that whole era? I mean, I think they were his first 4 films. What a way to start your cinematic career.
I think so, and doing it with Walter Hill, Walter Hill as the guy behind your, like, first big movie, your first big script, like, that is starting off strong. This is nowadays, I think, seen as a teaser for Beverly Hills Cop. This is sort of a preview of what we're going to get more of with Beverly Hills Cop. But I think if you go back to this one, this is the source code for the buddy cop comedy that we now know, love, and cherish so much as just, like, a part of the pantheon of the genre.
And I love it because even the arrival on screen of Eddie Murphy is so kind of brilliantly done cinematic, Walter, because he's singing. As Nick Nolte's walking through the prison, you hear him sing Roxanne to what was then a kind of cutting-edge technology, a Walkman. And even though this is a cool dude, he's managed to hang on to his Walkman in prison. He's getting out for 40 hours, and by the way, he's going to attempt to pull the wool over the cops. There's so many great scenes in this when he goes into the country and western bar and says, I don't like white people, and pretends he's a cop, keeps trying to get hold of his own gun. Very funny film indeed. You can catch this one. It tips over into tomorrow morning, Saturday, 12:20 tonight, so 20 minutes past midnight, on Film 4 from 1982. Hey, it's only about an hour and a half, maybe just under 2 hours long, not 48 hours. You've got to want to see this again.
Nick Nolte is a cop. Eddie Murphy is a con.
I can help you get Gans, but you got to get me out of here first.
You're crazy. He pulls some strings.
See how you need me a little more than you thought, huh, Mr. K?
He pulls some scams.
So where do you want to do it, honey? Want to hop up on the counter?
Nah, we can go in this room over here next to the bathroom.
Give me a break.
That's serious.
Come on, we're on the move. Let's go. They've got 2 killers to track down.
Toss me that piece, and he won't waste him.
They've got a kidnapping going down.
I want the money. I don't know what you're talking about. I want that Indian to snap her neck.
They've got a fortune to hunt down.
I want to know what's going on between you and Gans.
$500,000.
And it's all coming down in 48 hours.
But I gave you 48 hours to come up with something, and the clock's running.
This guy got a real itchy trigger finger, and he's a nervous cop. You better listen to him. You get your brain blown out.
Wow, what a great film that is still, of course. And there was a sequel, which I think I saw once and managed to completely forget about, another 48 hours. But it's a cracker. It's on 20 minutes past midnight tonight. It's on Film 4, 48 hours. Tell us your second recommendation, Van, if you would, please.
So my second recommendation is Saturday night on BBC One at 10:30. This is the movie that won Denzel an Oscar. And Hollywood myth has it that this happened because Russell Crowe may have behaved inappropriately in a men's room towards a publicist. But it is the 2001 Antoine Fuqua directed, absolutely banging hard charger that is Training Day, that kind of made an instant legend out of screenwriter Sean Ryan, who went on to collaborate in The Shield and Sons of Anarchy and things like that, and Mayans MC. And it stars Denzel as the corrupt cop who takes a young recruit under his wing for the day to see if he's worthy of his apprenticeship. Said young recruit is Ethan Hawke as Jake Hoyt, who may or may not have been asked by Internal Affairs to maybe keep an eye on this guy whilst you're out on the streets for the day. I've got a clip for you, though, and this kind of sets the relationship between the two really nicely. This is a brilliant movie. Like an absolutely fantastic, you couldn't have made this any other time in history movie. This is a clip of the two characters really getting to know one another for the first, 5 minutes.
Today's a training day, Officer Hoyt. Show you around, give you a taste of the business, you know? I got 38 cases pending trial, 63 in active investigation, another 250 on the log I can't clear. I supervise 5 officers, that's 5 different personalities, 5 sets of problems. You could be number 6 if you act right. But I ain't holding no hands, you understand? I ain't babysitting. You got today, and today only, to show me who and what you're made of. You don't like narcotics? Get the out of my car, go back to the office, get a nice desk job, you know? Chasing bad checks or something, you hear me? I hear you. Okay.
It was an absolute game changer in terms of Denzel Washington's career, wasn't it? Because he played the heroic films like Glory, and this was, such an energised and charismatic performance. And he, as you said, quite rightly got the Oscar for it. But also it's the start of a long collaboration with Anthony Fuqua.
Yes, as well. I mean, he'd already collaborated with Tony Scott before then, but from this point, it then becomes a case of Denzel only really does movies with Tony Scott and Antoine Fuqua. Until Tony Scott passes away about 12 or 13 years later, those are the only directors really that he makes new things with, and they find really great action vehicles for him. To be fair, we're still living off the legacy of The Equalizer with Fuqua from this day, you know.
Great film, and my second recommendation is one of my favourite films of all time. It's directed by my favourite director, Sam Peckinpah. It was his second movie. It's called Ride the High Country. Well, it was given that title in the States. Elsewhere, as in Britain, it's called Guns in the Afternoon, and it concerns 2 men, great actors, who were very much part of the Western genre in its heyday in the 40s and even into the 50s, Randolph Scott and Joel McRae. They're now going through the decline of the West. The Wild West is going. Miners have come in. Civilizations is spreading its tendrils out across the states. And they've got one of them's working like an almost Buffalo Bill Trup circus. The other one is wearing threadbare clothes. He's losing his eyesight. He gets a job of sorts, kind of guarding a gold shipment. And then while they make the acquaintance of a young woman who is leaving a very, very repressive father, gets involved with the family, wants to marry the youngest son of a family, and on the wedding night, the youngest son gets drunk, and his brothers attempt to make the woman their bride as well. So there's
oh my God.
The old guys step in, the older cowboys, and kind of rescue her, and then there's a massive chase for the rest of it, because the miners regard her as their property and want her back. It's a very bleak film at times, but it's also a film a bit like The Wild Bunch, which I think is better than the film that came between them, Major Dundee, because like The Wild Bunch, it's about men clinging to and living by a code of honour that society has rendered redundant, but that's the way they do things, you know. There's a great line in The Wild Bunch: if you start with a man, you stick with him, otherwise we might be some kind of an animal. And you get the same feeling in this one. It's got a wonderful biblical feel, this film, to it as well, for me. Absolutely love this movie. You can tell I'm waxing lyrical about it. Now, set the record. It's 2:35 tomorrow afternoon, Saturday afternoon, on 5 Action, which I don't mention a lot. It's called Ride the High Country. Randolph Scott, Joel McRae, and if you're of an age, the young weakling brother of the bad guy brothers is played by James Drury, who, of course, went on to become hugely famous as the good guy, whiter than white, the Virginian, in the TV series for many, many years. The cast, you see the cast members are Peckinpah repertoire company. It's a cracking film, and it's a chunk of... It's made money, unlike some of Peckinpah's later films. Cost about $500,000, made $2 million. So for a while he was a bit of a studio favourite. Things unravelled quite quickly after that, but then the 60s had arrived, and so various issues for Sam Peckinpah to deal with personally. Ride the High Country, 2:35pm, tomorrow afternoon on 5 Action. Saddle up.
In all the stirring legends of the frontier West, there is none as exciting as the reckless saga of the men who pushed the last outposts of civilization across the Sierra Nevadas. The men who ride the high country.
You add them all up, and I'd figure I was owed about all the gold we could carry out of these mountains.
Looks like you've got a pretty good claim.
Oh, it's a gold mine, honey. Why don't you come on over and take a look?
The lure of gold and the lust for excitement held them together. Two of a kind when danger threatened, but miles apart when tempers blazed.
You always fancied yourself faster than me. Draw, you damn tin horn!
Whoa! And, of course, it was one of the first films to deal very explicitly with the notion of brothels and prostitution in the West. They'd always called them euphemistically dance halls before then. So it's an interesting film. It's a very... And the young woman's
horizon.
Well, the young woman's wedding is also bizarre because it's all the prostitutes and the man of the brothel are like the maids of honour in a kind of almost... Sure, it's something Fellini would have done, I think. Anyway, as you can tell, I love that film. And I'm quite keen on the next one. Many films have sequels, and many of them are rubbish, like Beverly Hills Cop 2 and 3, like I would argue another 48 hours after 48 hours. Some films don't...
Oh.
Well, it's not good. It's a disappointment.
It's not as good, to be fair.
Coming to America 2, disappointment after all those years, I thought. But I actually prefer Predator 2 to Predator 1, because you get the same...
no.
Oh, I tell you why, because I think there's something about it being in the... Predator 1 was in the jungle, there's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's that kind of shape-shifting hunter creature who's the greatest hunter in the universe until he meets our Arnie. This time around... Your Predators turned up in a very urban environment. It was 7 or 8 years in the future from when the film was made in 1990, so things have unravelled society. It's a bit like the society of RoboCop, the first RoboCop film. Danny Glover is fantastic in it. I'm surprised it didn't immediately spawn another sequel. And there's a scene when he goes on board the spaceship. It's almost one of the first kind of meta franchise-building statements in the film. And they see like an alien skull that the Predators have hunted somewhere else, just as a kind of aside to it. So, film I love. It's Sunday evening. It's on 10:35pm, and it's on ITV4. So, set it to record and whiz through the adverts. Folks, 10:35pm, ITV4, Predator 2. No Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you do get, from Lethal Weapon and a lot more besides, Danny Glover, and you get the Predator.
Los Angeles, 1997. It's the hottest summer on record. Pollution is choking the city. The gangs control the streets.
It has not been a nice day!
As bad as things are, they're about to get worse. Much worse.
Whoever killed him is gonna pay. I'm gonna finish it.
It has almost no weight.
But it cuts like steel.
Incredible.
Whoever did this took out 4 men armed with machine guns by hand.
You don't know what you're dealing with. Otherworld life forms, drawn by heat and conflict. He's on safari. Lions. Tigers. The bears. Oh, my.
Quote from The Wizard of Oz. It's quite a witty film, and you get a Men in Black vibe off it as well. So that's 10:35pm Sunday night on ITV4, Predator 2. As bad as things are, they're soon going to get a whole lot worse. Except the next recommendation for Van is another cracker van. So what have you got for us?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't think mine compares to Predator 2. Predator 2 is so fun.
Great film, isn't it?
But... It's so good. It's so good. Like, I can't fault you, Mr. Ross. You might have won this one, but I'm still going to push ahead anyway. So 10:30, BBC One, Sunday night. I've got Ridley Scott's House of Gucci, starring Adam Driver and Lady Gaga. And they are two of the members of the infamous, House of Gucci, the fashion label that may or may not have had certain illegal activities going on behind the scenes. Here is Ridley Scott's version of it. And you know what? Just to demonstrate demonstrate how full Joan Collins in Dynasty they went on this, I've got a clip for you of Lady Gaga going full Joan Collins in Dynasty. Enjoy.
You ever steal anything, Paula?
What?
Forgive me. I'm trying to teach Alessandra the importance of not touching other people's belongings. I don't consider myself a particularly ethical person, but I am fair. What I cannot wrap my head around is people who steal just for ego, or the pleasure of it, for personal satisfaction.
I mean, I know she's of Italian heritage. It sounds to me a bit like Chico Marx in drag, though, that accent she was doing. Then that's 10:30.
I kind of love her.
10:30 BBC Two, and he's off screen dropping this morning. Some big films knocking around this weekend.
It is. Do you know what? It's one of the first weeks in a long time where I can remember there not really being a bad movie out. Wow. So I would definitely check it on Off Screen today with myself and Adam Ball on all good podcast platforms, and just enjoy us. We talk about 5 movies, and they're all good. Like, that is so rare.
Fantastic stuff. I'll be listening out after 8 when I download my copy. Of course, I hope you will be too. And join us next Friday. Join us every day next week, but join us on Friday for Van Conn and his Freeview film recommendations. But for the moment, Van, that's a wrap. Cheers, matey.